I'm going to tell you the secret. No. It's not, no, I mean, not that I won't tell you, but it's not really much of a secret. Context and judgment. I talk about this shit all the time in 100 different ways. But there's but I'm going to talk about it just hopefully very briefly right now. I feel like I've gotten some clarity about a few related concepts that up to this point in our culture are horribly muddled. Okay, so consider the psychoanalytic I have to be able to speak first. Consider the psychoanalytic concept of the unconscious. Now, if you're a self-respecting philosopher, such as I try to be, you will realize that there's only one way about it, and that's incoherent. But the psychologists try to dance around it, and you'll never be able to pin them down on anything, and so it never goes anywhere. Probably Lacan is comprehensible, but whatever it is that Lacan calls the unconscious, like that the unconscious is a priori structured like a language. It's kind of a provocative thing. I mean, it's a little bit tentative to say that it's like a language. But then why call it unconscious anyway? So we have notions like this. We understand that selection also, I mean, one of the arguments in favor of the existence of an unconscious is just the idea that consciousness selects from a set of data, and it can only make one object at a time. Only one object of consciousness proper at a time. Right. There's also this notion of phenomenological background that becomes, and I'll put that on the side of the unconscious. So you got like unconscious and phenomenological background, and we'll put context. So the unconscious, phenomenological background, context. And over here you've got judgment, assertion, selection, object fetishization, object constitution, object pursuit, object valuation, object analysis. Well, hold back on the analysis part, because I don't believe anybody can monopolize the notion of analysis, even though scientists tend to be associated with the notion of analysis. In other words, if you're a particularly analytical poet, I would say, hey, you're my kind of poet. Now, what I like about my little description here is that it comes dangerous. It comes very close to some kind of weak, cliche, quasi-mystical sort of New Age, sort of like whether it's Aikido or whether it's, people like to mention the art of war as though they've read it. That's as though they're really familiar with the art, Sun Tzu, the art of war, when really all they're doing is promulgating some vague idea about whatever's in it, which of course is like basically a fully constituted systematic philosophy, which to call it the art of war is probably a bit misleading, because it turns out to be much deeper than merely an art of war. But I think in our culture we get especially confused by exhortations, admonitions, suggestions, mystical, religious, interpersonal, or otherwise, to the effect, that you should just go with the flow or experience more flow. So there's some flow state. I like that. I like that term. Flow state. See, this is we're talking about deep phenomenology now. I mean, we're talking about the phenomenology of the flow state. First of all, when are you ever in the flow state? Like, what the fuck is the flow state? Are we really going to start designating like, oh yeah, that one time that I was in the flow state? What about all the times that you're not in the flow state? That's chopped liver. So the a priori, the dyad never gets going, to me anyway, because like what, flow state as opposed to what? Or non-flow state as opposed to then I'm going to start making decisions about whether or not I'm in the flow state? No, I mean, look, anybody who knows their Heidegger knows that you're already in the flow state, motherfucker. Whether you like it or not. What's the famous Heideggerism? One of them, throne projection. What's the first word? It's something throne projection. Ecstatic throne projection. It's not ecstatic throne projection. I'll remember it. It's already being constituted in real time. The whole thing. I mean, you don't enter a flow state. You're being produced by like a number of flow states. Several. Like how many? Well, you got to get down there to Planck scale and measure all the little Plancks. It's a lot of little Plancks going on all at once. Lots of little Plancks. And they're all flowing. And they produce y'all, me, you. You, me, you. FOMO YOLO or no FOMO YOLOs. FOMO YOLO. Oh, no FOMO YOLO. Okay. So, what are we supposed to teach about the flow state? Like, what's the flow state? Did I already, thoroughly deconstruct the living daylights out of that? Yeah, I did. So, I go put, Spinoza on your ass. So, yeah, go back and read your Spinoza. What are we talking about? Flow states. Read your Spinoza. This is like... any adult is supposed to know this shit, right? I mean, I was reading Spinoza when I was a teenager. I mean, no, I was in my early 20s. How do people not discover this shit? I mean, by now, how many times have I run into the names of every single goddamn philosopher in our culture? And I'm the only one. Outside of just a couple of people that I know, anyway, that's a different story. Yep. My insecurities, my philosophical insecurities as a philosopher. No, yes. Context. The whole point about context is it's no mystery. Think about your life, right? You remember your life. So that's the context. If you're 30 years old, it's one big 30-year context, right? So anybody that wants to understand any goddamn thing that you say, you see the asymmetry. How are they going to even begin to get a sense of what the context is for the language that you yourself speak? How? If you're 30 years old, it would take them literally. You would have to stand by them. You would have to live side by side for the next 30 years, and you see, because this kind of data can only be loaded as a real-time process. Contextual data. But then by the time you're 60 years old, they're 30. I mean, you're 30, however, whatever. The point is that for you to get a 30-year glimpse of somebody else's 30-year perspective, and that's going to take 30 years, by the time that's done, they're going to be 60. So then what are we talking about? We're not talking about objects. An object in itself with some stupid description that can differentiate it in a three-dimensional way. No. Objects exclude possibilities from the world. When you fetishize and engage with objects and you project over future possibilities regarding objects, you get stuck because you exclude all of the world with your stupid idiosyncratic selection. You fight the world every step of the way. This is context insensitivity. This is object fetishism. The counterbalance is, in this dyad, is simply sit on your ass, do nothing. Sit on your ass, do nothing. And pay attention to the goddamn context. Incidentally, this was precisely the way that Warren Buffett's partner, Charles Munger, said that they grow their billions of wealth is you sit on your ass. You sit on your ass and you just tend to your dividend coupons, and you make sure your discounted cash flow projection of the object, right, make sure your engagement with the object is correct. So even Berkshire Hathaway finds itself selecting here, finds itself selecting and judging. It can't just simply sit on its ass and let the money roll in, as can George Smiley. And this is the point of the talk. George Smiley is Mr. Context. If you do not know Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy by heart, better hop to it, because that is the new ABCs of American civic life. You got your Apocalypse Now, and you've got your whatever the other one I said, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. George Smiley is the protagonist. He's the man of patience. He is a philosopher. George Smiley does one thing. He pays attention to the context. That's about it. George Smiley keeps track. And there is a cabal that they variously call, sling mud at each other and say, your little cabaret and your little cabal. Bill Hayden and Percy Allaline and Roy Bland and Hortobaggy. Laszlo Hortobaggy. No, not Hortobage. Hortobage. Bill Hayden, Percy Allaline, Roy Bland, and the royalty. Von... I always blank on the last items in a list. Last object in a list. See, it's a matter of selection. Your object selection can drop out. You can fuck up your judgment. Why don't I care if I fuck up my judgment? I can lose my train of thought, whatever. Because look at all this. I'm situated. I'm woven in. I'm braided into the big ass context. So if it's not one object, then it's another. It's another 100 or another 1,000 objects. They're all within the context. There's nothing unconscious about it. See, the reason that George Smiley can pay attention is he's got a peculiar type of intuition that allows him to wait patiently and allows experience or existence or life to talk to him. He listens. He pays attention. And in all the versions, I only know the Hollywood versions because I'm a stupid illiterate Hollywood guy. Sir Alec Guinness, Sir Gary Oldman. If he's not Sir yet, he will be soon. Sir Gary Oldman. Mr. Slow Horses himself. George Smiley. So yeah, that's Smiley's trick. It's just paying attention. All that happens. It appears as a It literally appears as a minor, almost incidental adjustment or thing to accommodate. That no matter what your goals are in life, no matter what you're into, like, you know, no matter what your politics are, if you're really pushing that thing, trying to push that thing as far as you can take it, it's paying attention. It's very deceptive. I don't know why it's deceptive. And there's biochemical shit involved. You know, yeah. You know, I don't know what I'm describing, which is a kind of defocused contextual awareness, and what I'm talking about is the ability to kind of let the world pass you by, in a sense. But what I'm ultimately trying to describe is it's not the easiest thing to describe. It's very, I don't know, nuances. But really paying attention. You know, like, no matter what you're doing. Oh, and this is the other point. But when people say paying attention, like, oh, be mindful or be, present, be here now. It's always about, like, this thing in front of you, an object. No. The important thing about be here now is pay attention to what you're fucking thinking. If you put it that way, then I'm all in. Yes, absolutely. Be only here now, right now, in this thought. No, I don't know. You're going to select an object. You pick this object, I pick this object. So we already have differences and arguments and shit. This thought right now, your thought, not mine. Your thought, like you're thinking, oh, who is this fuck? Why am I even watching this? Why did I waste my time with this guy? Is it, this cheap bullshit where around his neck? Cheap bullshit. He doesn't cut his beard. Like, who is this fuck? Right? That's your thought. Yes. That thought. We're starting there. On June 3rd, 2026, the foundation of science in the United States of America is your thought. Who is this fuck in front of me? And why the fuck am I continuing to watch him? He's so full of shit, he can't even cut his beard. And that junk around his neck, who's he think he's fooling? Yeah, that's your thought. You tell me that. We start there. That's the context. You got to grab it before it's too late, like our friend with the with the gun. Too bad he's a fucking illiterate fuck. I mean, our country is just pumping out illiteracy like all get out now. Jesus Christ. Whew. And it's making the atheists into Christians and making nihilists into doing crosses like this and going to confession and... Elizabeth Taylor, do you think it's forever? Be my NY. Nah. Hollywood hates me. Hollywood hates me.